Why are we so curious about dolphins? And why are they so curious about us? Over the years, we've gained knowledge, entertainment, even companionship from dolphins. But what have we given them in return? Here at the Dolphin Research Center on Grassy Key, Florida, about 25 captive dolphins live in pens built out into the Gulf of Mexico. Some of these dolphins are here for training, others to regain their health. A few earn their keep by giving rides to tourists. Ric O'Barry is here for a different reason.
Isn't she a beauty? She's great. Hey, Rosie.
20 years ago, Ric trained the 5 dolphins that collectively played the role of Flipper on TV.
It was a wonderful experience for me. I had an opportunity to live with them for those years, and no, I have no regrets, other than I have no control over them. They weren't owned by me. I think in retrospect, we should have set them free after the show was over. You really must work with these dolphins in a tank for a long period of time before you can appreciate what they experience. This wonderful smile they have gets them in trouble. We see them smiling and they are breathing and they just appear to be doing fine when in fact they could be very depressed about their situation.
Ric is employed by ORCA, the Oceanic Research and Communication Alliance. For the past 2 years, ORCA's work has centered on preparing 2 Atlantic bottlenose dolphins for something the 5 flippers never lived to experience: freedom.
This is Joe. Joe's going to be a dad. We don't know when, but he's showing off now. He's a proud father. And you know, Rosie, I'm going to introduce you to Rosie here. She's pregnant now. You know how women, when they get pregnant, they get this wonderful glow about them? I mean, well, Rosie's like that. She's just got this wonderful feminine glow about her. And her baby will be born free, corny as that may sound. And that'll be wonderful.
The dolphins have been freeze-branded. Joe wears an arrow, Rosie a circle. The symbols will be important for identification once they go back to the wild. Returning dolphins to their natural habitat is not simply a matter of setting them free. Years of captivity have dulled their wild instincts. They have grown dependent on humans for their very survival.
You were trying it too, huh? Yeah.
Although hard data is difficult to come by, many believe that captive dolphins released in the past have fared poorly. The ORCA team is using a different approach to retraining, far more comprehensive, and with a planned follow-up after release. Gigi Coyle is the project director.
So to me, to let dolphins go or to give dolphins the choice, I would say that's more the gist of it. We've spoken with people in dolphinariums, we've spoken to people in the scientific community, and some have felt that it was a risk or that they didn't want to really be involved or that they questioned the importance or value of it. But overall, people were supportive.
Readaptation is more involved than meets the eye. We're finding the best way to do it is to put them in a place like this, a Dolphin Research Center, where there's a tide. A simple thing like that, the tide, is something they have not been exposed to, Joe and Rose, for the last 6 years, I think it's been. They've been in a tank in California. They need to remember how to chase fish, which are much more nutritious, incidentally, these live fish, than the frozen herring and capelin and various things we feed them.
Joe and Rosie were captured in 1980 for a human-dolphin communication experiment that ended 4 years later. The plan was to return the dolphins to the wild, and they were shipped to Grassy Key with that in mind. But funds were short, and no release program then existed.
Over here, Joe.
By 1985, it seemed that a promise had gone unfulfilled, so Orca was formed. They contacted Ric to supervise the readaptation part of the project.
Great! Good going, Joe. Right. That's what they got to do in the wild. Well, I've been hanging out with them all of my adult life. I spent the majority of that time capturing them and training them. Now, I have the opportunity to untrain them and put them back in their normal environment, which is just wonderful. Instant karma, you might say. I thought I was going to have to come back next lifetime and straighten all that stuff out.
I'm going to go down and check on Duarte and Christine, and I'll be back in about an hour and a half.
Off the coast of Georgia, in among the barrier islands, Gay Alling, another member of the Orca team, prepares for Joe and Rosie's arrival. Gay is the director of Ocean Expeditions Incorporated, a research group which operates from the Chinese junk Heraclitus. She knows that if Joe and Rosie are to adapt successfully to life in the wild, they will need the right habitat, an undisturbed place where wild dolphins thrive, a place such as this.
Relative to the rest of the coastline, in the America coastline at least, marshlands are really pristine. They are probably the cleaner of waters in terms of pollution. They've not really been heavily fished. There's not many people trotting on through the marshlands. So it is a real natural habitat, and there's abundant wildlife, abundant fish, and abundant bottlenose dolphins.
Gay is at home here. She spent much of her childhood roaming these isolated marshes.
So to bring Joe and Rose here, for me, was a dream I'd had as a little girl, to create something in the future where it was not just man scientifically studying dolphins, but in fact a place, an opportunity for dolphins and humans to be together, and to be together on their own terms.
Rosie's pass.
Back on Grassy Key, preparations for the move to Georgia have been going on for days. Joe and Rosie are finally ready for the last phase of readaptation.
No. Okay, they're both in now. Okay.
Wait, lift his belly. There you go. Easy, Joe.
Joe, do you gain weight?
Easy, Joe. There, we got the pole.
Yeah. Everyone lift up.
Moving dolphins is always slightly risky. Unlike fish, dolphins can survive temporarily out of water, but they must be very closely monitored. Their skins kept wet and their body temperatures down.
See early in the morning.
He actually wants to warm up a little bit.
I'm planning my vacations around Georgia now.
Come on forward.
Special attention is paid to the pregnant Rosie. A sonogram monitors the progress of her fetus before the trip begins.
I think you got it right there. Yeah, okay.
An earlier pregnancy ended tragically when her calf died because Rosie did not know how to care for it. Something the team hopes she'll be able to learn by observing in the wild.
Look at his slipper. Is that what that is right there?
Yeah, count the slits now.
Goodbye, Joe. You got it, Joe.
Swing around.
Wait.
You gotta pinch it. You gotta pinch it.
Get off that pole.
Okay, Jim, why don't we take Joe and Rose home? Sounds good to me. Coming up.
trip, Joe and Rosie are the guests of the United States Army. Their course will take them across the Keys, over the Everglades, and up the Florida Peninsula to the coast of Georgia.
There was a deep rationale to pursue readaptation and release, and that to me has to do with a kind of agreement or promise that we make with another species. Honoring the promise that was made to return Joe and Rosie to the wild is honoring that kind of commitment, that kind of relationship.
Traditionally, since dolphins have been in captivity, it's always been something we do to exploit them. The projects have been something we're doing with dolphins or something we're doing to dolphins. Today, we're doing something for them. We're putting a couple of them back into the sea.
Wait for the breath. Pull the boat closer. Put this down.
Go. All right. Good. Go.
Now the final phase begins. Joe and Rosie are in the last pen that will hold them before they gain their freedom. As the planned release day draws closer, the readaptation program becomes more critical. Ric O'Barry will live at the pen. From out here on the float, he'll be able to observe the dolphins around the clock and be on hand if anything goes wrong.
She's very upset with me. Won't trust me anymore for a while, I'm sure. That was quite an experience for them. You get their trust up, and then all of a sudden you grab them and haul them out of the water and aboard an airplane, and they really have no idea what is about to happen to them, and they don't know if they're going back into a tank for another 6 years or whatever, so they have to guess. And I try to feed them some whiting, which are indigenous to this area, this morning at 10 o'clock, and Joe took a few. Rosie wouldn't take any. I don't know if Joe ate them or not. They didn't seem very interested in them. But both of them have been chasing these tiny little minnows on the surface. In fact, they're doing that now. And that's really good. That's good mental activity for them, and that'll lead up to catching other fish that are here in this area.
One adult dolphin eats up to 20 pounds of fish a day. The humans helping Joe and Rosie learn to care for themselves are getting the most strenuous fishing lesson of their lives.
Good shot, good shot.
Project manager Jim Hickman and crewman Richard Cook have gained a new appreciation for dolphins and for the honorable art of landing a fish.
Looks like we got a net full. Yeah, those are just the perfect size for the dolphins.
Gonna try that bank again? Yeah. Okay, right up there, Richard. Here, oh, look at those, look at those. It's a good one. Teaching them to eat live fish again has been probably the most important part of the adaptation program. And now we're at the point where we've got plenty of mullet, and Joe and Rosie prefer the frozen fish. So we throw the fish in, and they eat a few of them until they get tired of that game, and they sit there and wait for the frozen fish, which they prefer. So, you know, we've got this fish pen now that's teeming with mullet that the dolphins won't eat. So Gigi now, when no one's looking, has created a mullet readaptation release program. And after the dolphins stop eating the live fish for the day, she starts letting them go.
Hey, Rosie.
They're still dependent on us a little bit. As long as we have them boxed in the pen and we feed them the fish they like, they're going to stay here and express some sort of fondness for us, or at least we would interpret it that way. But not until they go out and swim in a straight line for a mile and catch all the fish they want, and we sit here and wonder, are we going to know about the truth of the relationship? And that's what this is about. Will they still come and look at us like that when we don't have frozen fish in our back pocket?
Studying this unspoiled section of Georgia's tidal marsh is a crucial part of the project. The Orca team must know the place where wild dolphins thrive and also know why they thrive here if this and future releases are to succeed.
Joe and Rose are bottlenose dolphins. They are not from this area, but there's no reason why they should not readapt easily here. They'll have plenty of fish. The water temperature is similar to where they're from. So it's the right place, and they should have plenty of dolphins to make contact with.
I feel like I'm on the world's slowest elevator. The high tide gives my eye many options. Look around the top of the marsh, all these little islands out here. At low tide, we're down in a valley, and it's very different visually. A lot of little crabs scurrying about.
As the days pass in a gentle, repeating pattern, Joe and Rosie also adapt to the rhythms of life in the marsh.
Their personalities have changed somewhat. They are becoming like wild dolphins a little bit. They're not that interested in me anymore. They spend a lot of their time in that corner looking at the opening to the sound. I think they're interested in those wild dolphins that they hear coming by every day, and that's good. I kind of miss them already. It's hard being in a small spot like this for them. I feel that, being here myself, living here with them. I just love the idea of being able to see them swim in a straight line for the first time in 8 years, and I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that.
28 days after Joe and Rosie arrived in Georgia, the Orca team thinks the day has come to offer the dolphins their freedom.
This next phase we've called tracking. There's that possibility that Joe and Rose will take off and we won't see them. But with their brands and with the environment that we have here, where there are creeks and residential pods of dolphins, we feel that there's a good chance that Joe and Rose will stay in this area. As you can see, we have for the local fishermen a little picture of Joe and Rose's brands. We want to give you an idea, since there'll be the Orca team plus one member probably daily from the Heraclitus team involved, what we're going to be doing.
I'd just like to add that we observed Joe and Rose feeding themselves on the abundance of fish that's attracted to the pen, and hopefully they can continue to do this on their own once they're out. They've been doing this almost every night, feeding themselves. So we have every reason to believe they can continue to do that with the great abundance of fish that's here in this area. So it looks very positive. There's a couple of dolphins right here near the ship.
They come to this meeting, I'll tell you.
That's great.
Okay, so I would suggest that Rick Ibis and I untie the three middle ones, and the two of you...
Joe and Rosie have spent over 7 years in captivity. They have lived for a month in this floating pen. Finally, their day has arrived.
Joe and Rosie.
We need we're gonna need a knife here. Ibis?
What are you doing?
You cut this one?
Just below the surface of the murky creek, the gate is lowered. The bars come down.
I can
Okay, the gate is all the way down now, and they're free to leave anytime they want to.
At last, nothing stands between them and the open water.
Rope.
I saw one.
Maybe they did. Where are they?
They did.
Okay.
Really, I saw one. I think Joe left.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I saw something with an arrow going away.
5 minutes go by. Human ears, accustomed to the repetitive sound of dolphins, strain to pick up Joe and Rosie's voices on the wind.
Okay, all the humans in.
They're right down there. They're by the banks.
Would Joe leave without Rosie?
Yeah, there's one right there.
Where?
The dolphins return twice. Then they headed for the open sea. In the days and weeks that followed, they were spotted first alone, then in the company of local wild dolphins. They never again returned to the pen.
This is a project about letting go. If Joe and Rose take off, and we have a sense that they're fine on their own, we might never see them again, and that's okay. That does not mean that bond is broken.
Yeah, I miss them already, you know. I tell myself I'm not going to get attached every time I get involved with a dolphin, but I do. I fall right into it, you know. I will come back here for the rest of this lifetime, I guess, and see how they're doing and their offspring. And I started off as the teacher and became the student in my experience with dolphins.